Well, there were a couple wrestling shows that happened this weekend, and it's time for me to talk about them. Let's get started with NXT TakeOver Toronto, NXT's latest TakeOver special, and they've done, 10 or 11 of these now? I've lost count, and up to this point, I would say none of them have fallen into the bad category or even below average. At the very worst, they've been at least good, and typically they're above average and great. They've been very consistent with these NXT specials, and they've been very, very good. And this one was no exception. It was another great show in the NXT TakeOver lineup, and it started hot with the opening match, Ty Dillinger versus Bobby Roode. Stellar opening match. Loved it. I thought the fans were so invested in both characters, and it just made for a very exciting and fun match to watch both characters play off each other, and both characters were so great where you really wanted Ty to win over Bobby, who's such a dick. And they have a pretty good chemistry, and of course both of them are from Canada, which certainly helped and added to the fans' investment of it. So it was just a really, let's say glorious match to watch. The match was a perfect 10. I really enjoyed it. And did you notice that in this match, I don't think they did many moves that you wouldn't have seen in a match from the 1980s. The moves that they used were pretty basic for the most part. Like I said, they were moves that you would expect to see in the 1980s. I think the biggest spot of the match was a superplex. And this is probably my pick for second best match on the show. It was fucking great. Loved it. So it really goes to show you, when you have character and story, that matters more than the moves that you do. Adding shooting star presses and planchas and all that other shit wouldn't have made this match any better. It was fine the way it was. You just had two characters that the fans are invested in, and they told their story from there, and it was beautiful. It was, like I said, it was glorious. Really enjoyed it. Glad Bobby got the win, because they really need to start building up some heels on NXT. I mean, they can't rely on Samoa Joe forever. And for me personally, I felt like this was Ty Dillinger's big breakout match. This was his first really big chance to shine. He's been a jobber for a lot of his time. Then they repackaged him with the Perfect 10 gimmick, and that hasn't really... It's been slowly progressing upward to where he is now, and he finally gets a major pay-per-view spot on one of these TakeOver specials, and I thought he did admirably, even in defeat. I thought he looked really good, and potentially they could set him up as kind of the next... like a Bayley or a Sami Zayn, like that next big babyface character who's an underdog that's just striving to get that big win. Because that's something that NXT's been missing since Sami Zayn and Bayley got moved up. So, opening match was great. Loved it. Next up was the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Finals. The Authors of Pain taking on TM61. I'd completely forgotten that they were going to lock Paul Ellering in a cage and suspend it above the ring. I mean, that's old school as fuck. I completely forgot that they were going to do that, but match was fine. I thought the structure for the cage, I joked on Twitter that it looked like they started building TNA's Ultimate X structure and then just said, fuck it, we quit, and didn't finish it. But anyway, I thought the match was fine. Authors of Pain won, which I'm completely fine with. They're probably going to be set up for DIY for the NXT tag titles, where I'm assuming the Authors of Pain are going to win and then just dominate the tag team division, kind of like what the Ascension did. Only I think the Authors of Pain could do it better, because they've got way more size and are a lot more imposing. But yeah, like I said, I thought the match was fine. Authors of Pain won, which I thought was the right move, and keep on trucking. I just keep the heels, keep building them, and then see what you can do. So yeah, I was fine with this. Next up was another tag team match, the Tag Team Championship bout. 2 out of 3 falls. DIY challenging the Revival. Yet another outstanding match from the Revival. They've been having great matches with DIY. They've been having great matches with American Alpha. They've had great matches with Enzo and Cass. Every time they do a big tag match, they really bring their A game. And really, these two guys, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, they really remind me of like Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. They're just that old school tag team style. And they work their matches beautifully. And yeah, they're not that flashy themselves, but that's okay, because they're typically paired up with guys like American Alpha and Enzo and Cass and DIY, who are these flashy underdog baby faces that you want to see win. So it works. The chemistry is perfect right there. So it all comes together very, very well, and their matches have just been stellar. And in my mind, when we get to the end of the year awards for PWI or all these other places, I mean, I know who I'm picking for Tag Team of the Year. It's the Revival, without question, in my eyes. They have just been they've been consistent. They've been great. They have made other tag teams look better. Enzo and Cass look better after working with them. American Alpha, as great as they were, looked better after working with them. DIY really came together as a team working against the Revival. And Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano are very talented guys, but it was those matches with the Revival that really elevated them and really established them as a top-tier tag team. The Revival, they're just great. They're just outstanding, and I can't sing their praises enough. And this match was stellar. I loved all the callbacks to their previous matches. I mean, it got dramatic towards the end there, where I legitimately thought Johnny was going to tap, and I'm like, oh my god, that's going to be heartbreaking. And it was just an outstanding match. Absolutely just great A work. And whenever I see tag team wrestling done well, it just makes me happy. So DIY ultimately won the titles, which, again, very satisfying, very great to see them finally win the belts. See, it helps when you don't have them wrestle each other 45 times before the title change, so you only get 2 or 3 big matches, and when the baby faces finally get their big win, it feels a lot more gratifying. Again, some of those booking principles that NXT does that the main roster shows don't do, and it's one of the reasons that NXT is significantly better than the main roster, and it's also why NXT is so frustrating to watch, because it's like, why can't the main show be like this? I don't understand. I just don't understand why. But anyway, so yeah, the NXT tag title match was absolutely fantastic. My favorite match on the show. Next up was the women's title match, Asuka versus Mickie James. I already praised them actually booking this match. I thought it was a wise idea to kind of hold off on Asuka versus Ember Moon, which is clearly where they want to go. And I thought pulling Mickie out of the closet and just throwing an old star out there to make Asuka look good, I thought, again, very smart move. You can save bigger matches down the road, and you get another big title match out of Asuka in the process. Asuka went over to the surprise of no one. That was really my only fault with this match, is that it was just obvious that Asuka was going to win. So maybe it was lacking in the drama department, but fine, whatever. I mean, Mickie and Asuka had a great match. It was a really good match, and Mickie still looks great, and both as a worker and as a lady. I mean, I was like, damn, Mickie. She does weird things to me. I've had a crush on Mickie James for so long, and it's still there. Still there. She's still hot. Still hot. But yeah, I thought the match was really good. Asuka getting the win and then acting heel post-match I thought was cool. It further sets her up for Ember Moon, and now they just got to get Ember Moon into that spot to where they'll probably have that match at the Mania weekend NXT show, or whichever NXT show is closest to WrestleMania. That'll probably be the time to do that, but they got to start getting Ember Moon ready for that. So, yeah, I was completely fine with the women's match. And then we get the main event, Nakamura versus Joe. If I'm not mistaken, this is the 5th NXT special in a row that's headlined by Samoa Joe. I'm kind of getting tired of it. Not that the matches are bad. I mean, and this was a fine match. This was a good match. A little clunky in spots, but it was perfectly fine. And I like that Joe beat Nakamura with the steel step slam, which I know it's gonna become like Kevin Owens' powerbomb on the apron, where in NXT it killed you and put you out for months, and in the main roster you're back next week and feeling no side effects of it. And I'm looking at that, and I'm like, if Joe goes to the main roster, that's what's gonna happen to that steel step slam that he does. But in any case, I thought the match was hard-hitting and fun to watch. I wouldn't call it like a match of the year candidate or anything like that, but it was a perfectly serviceable main event. I just hope that, all right, yeah, Joe won the title again, but can we kind of like move past Samoa Joe being in the main event? He's had like 5 of these things in a row, and I'm kind of getting tired of him. I mean, I would have rather, I don't know, I probably would have preferred it if Nakamura went over and then moved on to somebody else like Bobby Roode. But But for what it was, I mean, it was a perfectly fine main event that didn't really put a damper on the show in my eyes. So yeah, NXT TakeOver, I mean, I feel like I'm just beating a dead horse at this point. It was another very good show. Tag title match was fucking great. Women's match was good. Main event was good. The opener was fucking great. And there was really nothing bad on the show. There was no wasted motion. Everything delivered to some degree. And it was just a highly entertaining show from start to finish. And from there, it is now time to talk about Survivor Series 2016. Boy, oh boy, what do I have to say about this show? Well, I mean, TakeOver was better. There's no, I mean, let's put that question to rest right now. TakeOver blew this show out of the water. Again, it kind of played into what I said in the preview video. If you don't care about the Raw versus SmackDown thing, which I don't, the show's just not going to work. And they had some opportunities to do some interesting things, like moving the Cruiserweight division over to SmackDown. They didn't take it. I guess Baron Corbin's injuries weren't that bad after all, if he was able to make an appearance on the show. You know, it's like they had Kalisto injure him and put him out of action, and then he's back in action by the... Well, I guess he's not participating in a match, but still, it's like, oh, okay. But, yeah, so that whole stipulation immediately got people excited about potentially moving the Cruiserweight division to SmackDown. Nope, didn't happen. You know, whatever. I mean, the Cruiserweights are getting their own show anyway, that 205 Live or whatever that thing is, so I guess it probably doesn't even matter. But IC title didn't change hands or move to Raw, so, you know, they had a chance to kind of switch some belts around and actually have Raw and SmackDown fight over something tangible. And nothing changed, so it was like, okay, nothing happened there. The elimination matches were, well, I mean, the women's one was, I mean, the only thing I really liked about that one was that Charlotte attacked Bayley post-match. It was like, all right, we won the match. Now we can go back to being enemies and set up their title match for down the road. But, yeah, it's just that there was nothing on the line and I didn't really care. That was the problem more than anything else. The tag team match kind of had the same problem. I was shocked that New Day got eliminated as fast as they did, but other than that, I mean, it was a meandering match up until it came down to the Usos and Cesaro and Sheamus. Then it turned into a very nice little tag match where Cesaro was putting on a one-man show, it felt like. I mean, my God, he was all over the place. But, yeah, Raw won both of those matches, but... I mean, I just got done watching SmackDown, and they were acting like, it's like, yeah, we won the big 5-on-5. It's like, yeah, but you lost almost everything else. I mean, you kept your IC titles, clearly, but I don't know. It just, unless you're Shane and Stephanie and you're petty bickering against each other, like, what reason do you have to care? I'm like, to really get, I mean, why would any SmackDown star at this point hate Raw to the point that they want to destroy them? What is the ultimate goal of the Raw and SmackDown rivalry anyway? Do they want to, I mean, does Raw want to kill SmackDown? Does SmackDown want to kill Raw? How do you measure one's success over the other? I mean, ratings? Is that the case? I have no idea. I don't care enough to know. That's the other problem. But, yeah, it was just kind of a meandering show. That said, the main Raw versus SmackDown match, which went on for like an hour, it felt really long. I thought the match was, again, it had its clunky moments, like Dean Ambrose coming out and basically almost costing SmackDown the match by causing AJ Styles elimination. So like, okay, so the Raw versus SmackDown thing isn't that important if one of the SmackDown guys is willing to just fuck over his team like that. But when I think about it, SmackDown did like all the work. They like eliminated themselves. They ultimately won the match. They also cheated by having Ellsworth screw over Braun Strowman. Shane was flying all over the place and actually got scared to death when he looked legit hurt from that spear from Roman. I was thinking, again, worst case scenario, I started thinking, it's like, oh my God, what if he got like internal bleeding or he punctured his lung or something crazy like that. Fortunately, Shane seems to be okay, which is nice. Hopefully he doesn't do anything that crazy ever again. But it's Shane McMahon, so you never know. But yeah, yeah, that kind of took me out of the match a little bit because whenever something like that happens, I just immediately start fearing for the wrestler's safety. It's like, yeah, okay, is Shane okay? It's like, yeah, this match, I get it, finish it, but is Shane okay? And that's typically where my mind goes. But yeah, this match was. I thought the main Raw vs. SmackDown match was a fun little car wreck of a match, and it went on for a really long time. They did a lot of crazy things and had a lot of exciting moments and everything. And Team SmackDown won. And again, Team SmackDown wins, and JBL starts yelling on commentary, Raw wins, which, again, there's so little identity and separation between the two brands that even the announcers are fucking it up. So it's, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter all that much. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton were the sole survivors for SmackDown, and for a match that had very little stakes and not a whole lot of intrigue, at least it was a fun car wreck to watch, and I enjoyed it for that. But let's get to the main event. Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar, which completely went against what I was expecting it to be. I mean, if it was going to be a 2-minute squash, I would have thought it would have gone the other way with Lesnar destroying Goldberg. But, I've heard some feelings, some opinions regarding this match. A lot of them are very negative, saying it's like, oh, that's bullshit to have a 90-second main event. Robs the fans, and it ruins Lesnar's push, and blah, 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 and, him ending the streak was pointless now, because he just went to a 50-year-old man, and all that other stuff. I hear people on the other side going like, oh my god, that was classic Goldberg, that was fucking awesome, and it was really cool and unexpected, and blah, 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 blah. Personally, there are valid points to both sides of that. Very valid on both sides. Speaking as an old-school Goldberg fan, somebody who watched Goldberg's rise and was a fan of his when he was coming up during the initial streak and everything, and all of that stuff, this match was classic Goldberg. I mean, this was awesome, and I wish maybe I should have done a live stream, because I wish you guys had seen my reaction to, like, when he shoved Lesnar down and the first spear, and it was like watching a classic Goldberg match on a Nitro or something. It was just, he looked like the unstoppable freight train that was Bill Goldberg. And he looked the part too. He looked to be in good enough shape to look like Goldberg, so it looked believable as well. And it was like, man, there you go. That's Goldberg at his finest. Short and sweet, rush of adrenaline, and just exciting and dominating. And that was classic Goldberg. Everything that was ever great about Bill Goldberg was captured in that match and the way they booked it. So, okay, I can't say that they fucked over a WCW guy. I mean, he's the hottest guy on the roster right now. He beat the guy that ended the streak, and the streak at that point was the biggest win you could give anybody, and now Goldberg's beaten that guy easily. So Goldberg is basically above everyone in the WWE roster right now. Based on what he did to Brock. I mean, Cena got destroyed by him. Orton got destroyed by him. Taker got beaten by him, at WrestleMania, where he never loses, and in Hell in a Cell, Triple H went down to him twice, not in a dominating fashion, because it's Triple H, so it had to be even Stevens, but still, Lesnar won those matches. And Goldberg goes in there and beats him in 90 seconds, so Goldberg's the biggest killer on the roster right now. And he's, they've already confirmed he's coming back for the Royal Rumble, and there's all sorts of rumors that WrestleMania, he's either going to work with Taker, or he's going to work with Lesnar again. Personally, I don't want to see him work with Lesnar again. And a match with Undertaker will only interest me if he beats Undertaker in 2 minutes, like he did to Lesnar. It's like, oh my god, if they go to WrestleMania and he does that to Taker, I will literally be the only person that enjoys it. I will be like, for me, that'll be like the Triple H marks that hate him, so they like get a sick pleasure out of watching his match from WrestleMania 12. That'll be that match for me, because I'm just fucking done with Taker at this point. But, so yeah, speaking as a Goldberg fan, all of that was great, and I totally marked out, and I was like, okay, that's kind of awesome. However, there are a bunch of negatives that go along with that, all, again, very valid points. You had Lesnar in the streak, which, like I said, was the biggest win that you could give anybody at that point. Bigger than winning a championship. Bigger than beating John Cena for a championship. Clearly. That was the biggest win you could give anybody. And you have Lesnar go on a tear for 3 years, where he destroys and dominates everyone. This year alone, he beat Ambrose, he beat Orton in dominating fashion. he squashed John Cena at SummerSlam a couple years ago. He's beaten Taker more than he's lost to Taker. And even the SummerSlam match was like, the way it was booked, it looked like the referee was a dumbass and the timekeeper was a dumbass, and Lesnar got screwed. It wasn't like he legitimately got beat. So, I mean, you've pulled all that credibility and all that hype into Lesnar, and now you've transferred that. Your big payoff to it is 50-year-old Bill Goldberg who hasn't worked a match in 12 years. That to me feels like a waste. Again, no disrespect to Goldberg, but it's to me it's a waste, because that's a potential huge star maker where it's like, okay, the guy that beats Lesnar is gonna get, like, that's a lot of credibility and a lot of hype that goes along with that, and you could potentially make a star with that. Guys like let's say, okay, let's take the Survivor Series main event, and let's say they did it with a young star, Cesaro, Rusev, Braun Strowman, I don't know, somebody who could believably match Lesnar in power. I don't know, any guy that's not on the roster right now. I don't know, any big guy that you can think of. And let's say you put this young guy who's on a big dominating tear, and you put him up against Lesnar, and then he beats Lesnar in 90 seconds after Lesnar has had all this hype put into him. You just made a new star right there. But WWE, for whatever reason, they just don't pull the trigger, and they don't want to, like, do that with any new stars. They just kind of, unfortunately, the young stars are recipients of the 50-50 booking, overexposure from being on TV every week, having bad storylines, bad booking, and all that other stuff. So they become the recipients of all this shitty booking, and that's why the part-timers get cheered and they get all the glory, because they feel more special and they benefit from all the big victories. And it's like, okay, just feels like, to me, it just feels like a waste. So yeah, the main event, like I said, I'm torn on it. As a Goldberg fan, it totally works. But as far as building your future and what you could have done to make a new star, they completely squandered that opportunity. And if this was done to set up Lesnar Goldberg 3 at WrestleMania, I have no interest in seeing it. If they're doing Goldberg versus Undertaker, I don't care unless Goldberg destroys him. And even then, it's like, all right, who benefits? It's just part-timer versus part-timer. You're not building a future with it, and that's the problem. I've heard that they might do Cena Taker this year. You're not building a future with that. Cena's already winding down, and Undertaker, if I watch him wrestle one more time, I'm going to put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger. It's just, not really, but it's just, I don't care. They're not creating intrigue. They're just throwing big part-timer stars up against each other in a cheap attempt to trick people with nostalgia. And that's why this season of South Park is so great. They're making fun of that whole thing with the member berries. Remember Stormtroopers? Remember Chewbacca? I remember. And that's basically WWE. It's like, hey, remember the Undertaker? Oh my God, I remember the Undertaker. He was fantastic. Remember Goldberg? Remember the spear and the jackhammer? Oh, I remember. Fantastic. But yeah, it's, I don't know. I don't know anymore. They just, I mean, I keep asking the question, what are they going to do when they need, like, because they can't rely on these guys forever. They can't rely on Goldberg, Undertaker, Rock, and all, Sting, who's, already gone, but I mean, they can't rely on those guys forever. They just can't. I mean, and what, are they going to job AJ Styles out to The Undertaker just to set him up for a match with Goldberg or Cena? I don't give a fuck. I don't care. It'll just piss me off to watch AJ get fed to Undertaker. I mean, you want to tick me off? That'll do it. But in any case, so, yeah, the Survivor Series main event was, again, it was very shocking, unpredictable, and I like the booking behind it, and it was nice to see a WCW guy not get fucked over for once, just because he's a WCW guy, but at the same time, it feels like a waste of Brock Lesnar, and it shows. It's like, all right, they had no plan post-streak. They had no big plan post-streak. They were just gonna kind of ride it as long as they could, and then just figure out a way out of it, to cash in those chips, but oh well, what are you going to do? So yeah, those are my thoughts on both WWE shows that happened this weekend. NXT, once again, the much better show. Better booking, better payoffs, just better everything. Just just better everything. So that is all I have for you now. This is the week of Thanksgiving, so you all have a good Thanksgiving. I will probably have another video up this weekend. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. We'll find out. It's a work in progress. We shall see. But until then, I will see you all later.